Dr. James Hayes pressed his palm against the cold viewing window and watched the small creatures huddle together in the corner. Their scales, once probably bright and colorful, now bore ugly red sores that wept constantly. The 12 dragon hatchlings looked more like sick puppies than the fierce predators everyone claimed they were. "You should step back from the glass," Station Commander Toriel said behind him. The Vendathi administrator's 4 arms crossed nervously over his chest. "The viewing port is reinforced, but we cannot be too careful." James did not move. He had been on quarantine Station Mercy for only 3 days, but he had spent most of that time right here, watching these abandoned children suffer. "How long since anyone touched them?" he asked. That Toriel's skin flushed purple, a sign of discomfort in his species. 6 months. Since the last caretaker died. The Crimson Scale Plague is absolutely fatal to every known species. 72 hours from first contact to death. No exceptions, except the dragons themselves. They carry it. They spread it. They're walking biological weapons. Toriel moved closer, his voice dropping. "Dr. Hayes, I understand you're new to xenobiology, but these creatures are not pets. 3 good people died trying to care for them. We feed them through automated systems now. Is the only safe way." James finally turned to face him. "They're dying anyway. Look at them. Dragons are social creatures. They need physical contact to develop properly. Without touch, without bonding, their immune systems shut down. The plague is not killing them anymore. Loneliness is." The smallest hatchling, barely the size of a large dog, lifted its head and looked directly at James through the glass. Its eyes were golden and filled with a sadness that made his chest ache. The creature's breathing was labored, each exhale producing a small whimper. "The Galactic Council has made their decision," Toriel said firmly. "No direct contact. We keep them comfortable until we find a solution. Or until they all die," James finished. "That is the plan? Let children die slowly because we are too afraid to help them. They are not children. They are plague carriers." James walked away from the window and headed toward the equipment lockers. His hands moved quickly, pulling off his standard station uniform jacket. "What are you doing?" Toriel's voice rose in pitch. "My job." He stripped down to his basic medical scrubs. "I'm a doctor. Those are patients who need care. Simple as that. You cannot be serious. Dr. Hayes, I will have you removed from this station. I will have your medical license revoked. You cannot just—" "The door code is 7743, correct?" James was already at the containment zone entrance, his fingers hovering over the keypad. Toriel rushed forward, all 4 arms reaching out. "Stop. This is suicide. You have no authority to—" "I have every authority." Galactic Medical Charter, Section 14. Any licensed physician may provide emergency care to sentient beings when such care is deemed immediately necessary to prevent death or severe suffering. Those hatchlings qualify. The council will never approve. Then they can fire me after I save these kids. James entered the code. The heavy door hissed open, and air from the containment zone rushed out. It smelled like illness and fear. Toriel stumbled backward. "I'm sealing this door behind you. I'm calling medical emergency services. You had just killed yourself, doctor." James stepped through. "Maybe, but at least I will die doing something right." The door sealed behind him with a solid thunk. Warning lights flashed red along the walls. Somewhere in the station, alarms were probably screaming. James ignored all of it. He walked slowly into the containment zone, his bare feet padding softly on the metal floor. The 12 hatchlings scattered at first, pressing themselves against the far walls. They made high-pitched distress calls, their small wings flapping uselessly. James sat down cross-legged on the floor and waited. He did not reach out, did not call to them, just sat quietly and let them observe him. Minutes passed. Then one of them, the smallest one with the golden eyes, took a cautious step forward. Then another. The creature's nostrils flared, taking in his scent. Its head tilted to one side, confused. "Hello there," James said softly. "My name is James. I know you're scared. I know you hurt. I am here to help." The small dragon took another step. It was so thin that James could count its ribs beneath the damaged scales. The crimson sores covered nearly half its body, and some were clearly infected. How long had this baby been in pain? I'm going to call you Timothy, he whispered. Is that okay? You look like a Timothy. The hatchling, Timothy, was now close enough to touch. He stretched his neck out, sniffing James's extended hand. His whole body trembled. When was the last time anyone had shown him kindness? James slowly moved his hand upward and placed a gentle kiss on his forehead, right between the small ridge where his horns would eventually grow. Timothy went completely still. Then something broke inside him. He made a sound like a sob, and his legs gave out. James caught him, pulling the small dragon against his chest. He was burning with fever. I have got you, he murmured. You are not alone anymore. I promise. One by one, the other hatchlings approached. They climbed onto his lap, pressed against his sides, curled around his shoulders. Within minutes, James was buried under a pile of sick, scared, desperate baby dragons. They all cried, their tears forming small crystals that clinked softly as they hit the floor. Through the viewing window, he could see Toreel's horrified face. Medical teams were gathering. Equipment was being prepared. They were already planning his funeral. James held the children closer and began to hum softly. They had 72 hours to prove everyone wrong. 72 hours before the plague would supposedly kill him. That he looked down at Timothy, who had finally stopped shaking. His golden eyes were already beginning to close, his breathing evening out into actual sleep instead of exhausted collapse. Worth it, James whispered. Hour 17. James's arms ached from holding Timothy, but he refused to put him down. The small dragon had not left his side since that first contact, and his fever had actually decreased by 2 degrees. The medical monitors outside the containment zone tracked every one of his vital signs, and an entire team of doctors watched him like he was a ticking bomb, but he was not dead yet. That seemed to confuse everyone. Drink this. James held a nutrient solution to Timothy's mouth. He lapped at it weakly, then turned his head away. Come on, buddy. Just a little more. You need your strength. The other 11 hatchlings were scattered around the containment zone, all of them calmer than they had been in months. A medium-sized female with blue-tinted scales was actually playing with a piece of torn fabric, pouncing on it like a kitten. James had named her Sophie. Another hatchling, rust-colored and stubborn, had claimed his left shoe and refused to give it back. That one was definitely a Robert. The comm system crackled. Dr. Hayes, this is Medical Director Vinnick. How are you feeling? Tired? Sore? Incredibly angry that it took this long for someone to help these kids. James shifted Timothy to his other arm. But not dead. Not sick. Nothing. It has only been 17 hours. The plague's incubation period averages 48 hours before symptoms manifest. You're not safe yet. When I start showing symptoms, you can say I told you so. Until then, I need medical supplies in here. Real supplies, not automated dispensers. These sores need proper treatment. Timothy's fever needs managing. Sophie over there has a respiratory infection that has nothing to do with the plague. Silence on the other end. Then Toreel's voice cut in. Absolutely not. We will not risk more contamination. You made your choice, Dr. Hayes. Now you must live with the consequences. So you will let me die without even trying to help these dragons? What kind of people are you? Cautious ones. Smart ones. We have lost too many already. James stood up carefully, holding Timothy against his shoulder. He walked to the viewing window, where several faces stared at him. You know what I see when I look at you? Fear. Just fear. These are children. Sick, traumatized children. And you have turned them into monsters in your heads because it is easier than being brave. Station Security Chief, a muscular Corvan female named Drex, stepped forward. We are not the monsters here, human. The plague is. And you are infected now, whether you show symptoms or not. You are a threat. Then test me. Draw my blood. Scan me. Do whatever you need to do. But stop treating these babies like weapons. Medical Director Vinnick appeared at the window, his reptilian features twisted with concern. There is a transfer chamber. A sealed system. Dr. Hayes could provide samples without direct contact. Toreel shook his head violently. This is madness. This is science, Vinnick snapped. The human has been exposed for 17 hours and shows no symptoms. That is unprecedented. We need to understand why. 3 hours later, James's blood samples were in the lab, and he was back on the floor with the hatchlings. Timothy had fallen asleep in his lap, his small body finally relaxed. Sophie was curled against his right side, making tiny snoring sounds. Robert still had his shoe. The comm crackled again. This time Vinnick's voice was different. Excited. Shocked. Dr. Hayes, we have initial results. You need to hear this. James stroked Timothy's head gently, careful not to wake him. I am listening. Your blood contains the plague. Active viral load. You are absolutely infected and absolutely a carrier. Great. So, I am dying. No, that is the impossible part. The virus is in your system, but it is not attacking. Your immune system has not destroyed it, but the virus is not destroying you either. This should not be possible. James waited. He could hear multiple voices arguing in the background. Vinnick continued. We ran the analysis 4 times. Every time the same result. The plague virus has reached some kind of equilibrium in your system. It exists, it replicates slowly, but it does not cause disease. Your body is hosting it like a neutral party. Why? We do not know yet. But Dr. Hayes, if this is real, if humans can carry the plague without dying, this changes everything. These dragons could be saved. They could rejoin society. Humans could be the bridge species that makes it possible. James looked down at Timothy. His scales were already looking better. The sores were not healed, but they were not getting worse. His breathing was steady and strong. Send in supplies, he said firmly. Medical equipment, food, water, cleaning materials. I am not leaving this containment zone, but these kids need proper care. If I am already infected and not dying, then there is no more risk. Send in what I need. Commander Toril will never. Commander Toril can either help me save these children, or he can explain to the Galactic Council why he let them die when we had a solution. His choice. Hour 71. James had not slept. The medical supplies had arrived through the transfer chamber, and he had spent the last 2 days treating every single hatchling. Timothy's fever was gone. Sophie's respiratory infection was responding to antibiotics. Robert's scales were showing their true color as the sores healed. The entire station held its breath. 1 more hour. Just 1 more hour until the 72-hour mark. James sat with his back against the wall, surrounded by sleeping dragons. Timothy was draped across his lap, as usual. Sophie had claimed his left shoulder. Robert was sprawled across his legs. The others were piled nearby, a mass of scales and soft breathing. The comm system crackled. Vinnick's voice was thick with emotion. Dr. Hayes, it has been 72 hours. I know. You should be dead. I know. You're not even sick. James smiled, running his fingers gently over Timothy's healing scales. I know. So let us stop wasting time and start saving lives. Contact every human medical facility in this sector. Tell them what we discovered. Tell them we need volunteers. These 12 kids are not the only plague orphans out there, and they all deserve what I gave Timothy. What is that? James pressed a kiss to the top of Timothy's head. A chance. 2 months had changed everything. James stood in the observation deck with his coffee, watching Timothy and Sophie play fight in the expanded containment area. The space had been redesigned from a sterile quarantine cell into something closer to a home. Soft bedding, climbing structures, toys. Real toys, not automated feeders and cold metal walls. Behind him, the door opened. He recognized the footsteps before the voice spoke. They look happy. Dr. David Park set his medical bag down on the console. He was the first volunteer to answer the call. A human trauma surgeon who had left a comfortable position on New Soul Station to come work with plague orphans. They are healing. Finally, James turned to face him. David was younger than him, maybe 30, with tired eyes that suggested he had seen too much suffering already. You're sure about this? Once you go in there, you're marked as a carrier for life. Some stations will not let you dock. Some colonies will turn you away. I did not become a doctor to play it safe. David stripped off his jacket. Besides, someone told me these kids deserve better. He was right. Nurse Catherine Wells arrived an hour later. She was older, maybe 50, with gray streaks in her dark hair and hands that moved with practiced efficiency. She took one look at the hatchlings and immediately walked to the containment zone entrance without a word. No hosetastion. James asked. Catherine smiled. I raised 4 kids of my own. These babies need a mom. End of discussion. By evening, 3 humans were in the containment zone, and 12 dragon hatchlings had more love and attention than they knew what to do with. Timothy initially refused to leave James's side, suspicious of the newcomers. But when David sat down and started teaching the dragons a simple card game using modified Galactic standard cards, even Timothy could not resist. Dragons love games, David explained as Sophie successfully matched 3 cards in a row. She chirped with delight. It is part of their cognitive development. Play teaches them problem-solving, social hierarchy, cooperation. Without it, they cannot mature properly. Catherine was in the corner, carefully trimming the damaged scales from Robert's back. The rust-colored hatchling sat perfectly still, soaking up the attention. You are such a good boy, she murmured. So brave. These will grow back nice and strong. You will see. Commander Toril entered the observation deck, and James tensed automatically. Their relationship had been cold since his unauthorized entry 2 months ago. But the Vendathi administrator looked different today. Less hostile, more uncertain. The Galactic Medical Institute published your research findings this morning, he said quietly. Every major news network in 15 sectors has picked up the story. You are famous, Dr. Hayes, or infamous, depending on who you ask. I do not care about fame. I care about results. The results are causing quite a stir. Toril pulled up a holographic display. News headlines scrolled past. Humans, the plague-immune species. Dragon orphans find hope in human compassion. New Earth, saviors or fools? James watched the headlines with a growing sense of unease. What is the response from medical communities? Mixed. Some are calling for immediate human involvement in all dragon rehabilitation facilities. Others are demanding your arrest for reckless biological contamination. The Galactic Council has scheduled an emergency session next week. To discuss what? How to help more orphans. Toril's skin flushed purple again. To discuss whether dragons should be allowed to rejoin society at all. There are voices calling for permanent isolation. A quarantine planet where all plague-carrying dragons would be relocated. Permanently. James's coffee mug hit the console harder than he intended. They want to exile them. Children. They want to exile children to an empty planet and forget they exist. Some believe it is the only safe solution. Safe for who? Not for the dragons. They're social creatures. Isolation would destroy them. You have seen what 2 months of neglect did to these 12. Imagine a lifetime of it. Inside the containment zone, Timothy had finally joined the card game. He played carefully, his golden eyes tracking each card with intense focus. When he won the round, he did a little victory dance that made all the humans laugh. Look at him, James said, pointing through the window. Does that look like a biological weapon to you? Or does it look like a child who finally feels safe enough to play? Toril watched in silence for a long moment. I have reviewed all medical data from the past 2 months. The human presence reduces viral transmission by approximately 87%. Dragons in close proximity to humans show dramatically reduced contagion rates. It is as if human immune systems create a buffer zone. Because we are not trying to kill the virus. We are hosting it. We are the neutral ground where the plague can exist without destroying everything around it. The Council will want proof that this works beyond a controlled environment. They will want long-term studies, safety protocols, containment strategies. James turned to face him fully. Or they could just trust us. These 3 humans have proven that contact is safe. We could train more volunteers, create integration programs, help dragons re-enter society with human liaisons. It is not complicated. We choose compassion over fear. You make it sound simple. It is simple. People make it complicated because complicated gives them an excuse to do nothing. A chime sounded from the medical console. Catherine's voice came through the comm. James, you need to see this. Timothy's viral load dropped another 15% this week. His scales are regenerating perfectly. No scaring, no deformitias. He is not just surviving anymore. He is thriving. James felt something tight in his chest loosen. Send the data to Medical Director Venick. Make sure it is included in the Council's briefing. They need to see what is possible when we stop being afraid. Toriel moved toward the door, then paused. For what it is worth, Dr. Hayes, I was wrong about you. What you did was not reckless. It was necessary. I should have been brave enough to do it myself. You can be brave now. Help us fight for these kids at the council hearing. The Vendathi administrator's skin shifted to a lighter shade. Agreement in his species. I will do what I can, but you should prepare yourself. The opposition will be strong. Many species lost people to this plague. They will not be easily convinced. After he left, James returned to watching the hatchlings. David had taught them a new game, and they were all playing together, their laughter and chirps filling the containment zone with sound. Real sound. Life sound. Timothy looked up suddenly, catching his eye through the window. He waved one small claw at him. James waved back, smiling. We will fight for you, he whispered. All of you. I promise. The council chamber on Unity Station was designed to intimidate. 300 representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose toward a domed ceiling painted with stars. James stood in the center speaking platform, very small and very human, while thousands of eyes watched his every move. Timothy sat beside him. He had fought for his right to be here, arguing that the dragons deserved representation. The council had reluctantly agreed to allow one hatchling to attend. Timothy had been the obvious choice. At 4 months old, he was already speaking Galactic Standard with impressive clarity. The human claims are extraordinary, Ambassador Jevic of the Vendathi delegation announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. They ask us to believe that one species, newly discovered and barely understood, can somehow neutralize a plague that has killed millions. They ask us to risk everything on faith. James kept his voice steady. Not faith. Science. We have provided comprehensive medical data. 2 months of continuous monitoring. Blood work, viral load analysis, transmission studies. The evidence is clear. Humans can coexist with the Crimson Scale Plague without harm to ourselves or those around us. For 2 months, Jevic countered. What about 2 years? 20 years? We do not know the long-term effects. We do not know if human immunity will last or if the virus will evolve. You are asking us to gamble with galactic safety. A Corvin representative stood, her scales gleaming under the chamber lights. My people lost an entire colony to this plague. 300,000 dead in a single month. You want us to welcome the carriers of that nightmare into our stations, our planets, our homes. Timothy's small body tensed beside him. James placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. I understand your fear, he said. I understand your loss. But punishing children for a disease they did not choose is not justice. It is cruelty. It is survival. Another voice called out. The dragons must be isolated. For everyone's safety. The chamber erupted in voices. Some agreed. Some protested. James waited for the noise to die down before he spoke again. You want to send them to an empty planet. Alone. Forever. Do you understand what that will do to them? They will be alive. Federal sheltered. That is more than many plague victims received. James felt his control slipping. They are children. They need families. Communities. Love. You cannot just warehouse them like contaminated equipment. We can and we must. The risk is too great. Timothy tugged on James's sleeve. He looked down at him, and he gestured to the speaking platform's microphone. His golden eyes were determined. Let him speak, James said loudly. You want to decide his future? At least hear his voice first. The chamber went silent. Timothy stepped forward on shaky legs. He was so small that someone had to lower the microphone for him to reach it. My name is Timothy, he said, his voice clear but quiet. I do not remember much from before the plague. I remember my mother. She was beautiful, golden scales that shined in the sun. She sang to me every night. He paused, collecting himself. I remember when she got sick. Her scales turned red. She could not breathe right. She made me promise to be brave. Then she died. So did my father. So did everyone in my colony. I was alone. The chamber remained absolutely quiet. For 6 months, I lived in a cage. No one touched me. No one talked to me. I heard all the time. I wanted to die. I thought maybe death would let me see my mother again. Timothy's voice cracked. Then James came. He was not afraid. He held me. He kissed my head. He told me I was not a monster. He gave me hope. He looked up at the rows of representatives. You want to send me to an empty planet. You think that is mercy, but it is not. It is just a slower way to die. Dragons need family. Without connection, without love, we fade. I will fade. All the orphans will fade. And you will have killed us just as surely as the plague did. The boy is manipulating your emotions, Jevic argued. This is exactly why children should not speak at council hearings. I am not manipulating. Timothy's voice grew stronger. I'm telling truth. You're afraid of me because I carry a disease. But I did not choose this. I did not ask for my family to die. I did not ask to be alone. I only asked for a chance to live. Really live. Not just exist in isolation. An older dragon entered the chamber. James recognized Elder Sereth immediately. The ancient dragon moved slowly, his silver scales marked with the faint red scars of a plague survivor. The chamber guards moved to stop him, but Sereth simply fixed them with a stare that made them step aside. I invoke ancient rights, Sereth announced. Dragon Clan law, recognized under Galactic Treaty 447. A dragon may choose their clan members regardless of species. It is our oldest tradition. Ambassador Jevic stood. That law was written for dragons choosing other dragons. Not the law states any dragon may choose any sentient being as clan. Sereth moved to stand beside Timothy and James. I am elder the Draenus line. I survived the plague. I watched my entire world die. And I say these human healers have earned the right to be called kin-bearers. They have proven their loyalty, their courage, and their compassion. You cannot be serious. I'm completely serious. These 12 orphans choose humans as their clan. It is their right. And if you attempt to separate them, you violate treaties that have stood for 10,000 years. The chamber erupted again. James watched as representatives argued, gestured, shouted. Beside him, Timothy leaned against his leg, exhausted from his testimony. He stroked his head gently. You did good, he whispered. Will they listen? I do not know, but you were brave. Your mother would be proud. Elder Sereth looked down at them both. The council will debate for days, maybe weeks. They are afraid of change, afraid of risk. But fear has never been a good foundation for law. What do we do now? The old dragon's eyes glittered. We wait, and we prepare. If they rule against us, we do not give up. We fight. Some battles are won not with words, but with time and persistence. James held Timothy closer and hoped that time was something they still had. 3 days of waiting felt like 3 years. James sat in the temporary quarters Unity Station had provided, staring at his datapad without really seeing it. News feeds scrolled past. Public opinion was divided sharply. Half the galaxy called him a hero. The other half called him a dangerous fool. David knocked before entering. The council is voting in 1 hour. Already, James set down the pad. I thought they would deliberate longer. Apparently, the Vendathi delegation pushed for a quick resolution. They have the votes. James, it does not look good. Catherine entered behind him, her face grim. I just spoke with Commander Toriel. He tried to warn us. The majority supports permanent relocation. The dragons will be sent to Outer Reach 7, an uninhabited planet in the frontier territories. No visitors allowed except automated supply ships. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. That is a death sentence. Maybe not immediate, but eventual. Dragons cannot thrive in isolation. I know. Catherine sat down heavily. Toriel said he is sorry. He voted against it, but his voice was one of maybe 30. Everyone else is too afraid. Timothy appeared in the doorway, Sophie and Robert behind him. The 3 hatchlings had been exploring the station under guard supervision, but something in the air must have told them to return. Dragons were sensitive to emotional states. Bad news, Timothy asked quietly. James could not lie to him. The council is voting to send you away, to an empty planet. Sophie made a distressed sound. Robert's scales flushed dark with anger. Timothy just looked at James with those golden eyes and asked, "Will you come with us?" The question hung in the air. David and Catherine both turned to look at him. "Timothy, that is not." James started. "Will you come with us?" he repeated. "If we have to go to the empty planet, will you stay with us there?" James knelt down to his level. "The Council will not allow humans on that planet. The whole point is isolation. They want you separated from everyone, including us. Then we refuse to go. You do not have that choice." Timothy's small body trembled, but his voice stayed firm. "Yes, I do. I choose my clan. You are my clan. If they separate us, they break dragon law." Elder Sereth said so. Robert stepped forward. "I choose humans too. James is my family." Sophie nodded rapidly. "We all choose. All 12. We stay with our humans, or we do not go." David ran a hand through his hair. "Kids, it is not that simple. The Council has power. They can force you onto transport ships. They can try," Timothy interrupted. "But I will not go quietly. None of us will." Catherine laughed, but it was a sad sound. "What are you going to do, baby? Fight trained security forces?" "If I have to." Timothy looked at James again. "You taught me that some things are worth fighting for. You fought for us when everyone said it was impossible. Now we fight back." James pulled him into a hug. "You are the bravest person I know. All of you. But I will not let you get hurt fighting a battle you cannot win." "Then what do we do?" James was quiet for a long moment. An idea was forming, crazy and desperate, and probably doomed to fail. But maybe, just maybe it could work. "We make them choose," he said slowly, "between following their fear or honoring their own laws." An hour later, James stood before the council chamber again. This time, all 12 hatchlings stood with him. So did David and Catherine. And behind them, Elder Sereth and 15 other adult dragons who had survived the plague. Ambassador Jevik looked annoyed. "The council has reached a decision. Your presence is no longer required." "Actually, it is." James's voice carried through the chamber. "Before you announce your decision, we have an announcement of our own. These 12 hatchlings have formally chosen their clan under dragon law. They choose humans. They choose us. That changes nothing. The law allows them to choose clan members, not to avoid quarantine. It means you cannot separate them from their chosen family. If you send them to Outer Reach 7, then we go with them." The chamber went silent. Jevik's expression darkened. "You would voluntarily exile yourselves?" "Yes, all 3 of us. We resign our positions, we renounce our citizenship in our home systems, and we accept permanent exile. If that is what it takes to stay with our family. This is emotional blackmail. This is love." James gestured to the dragons. "You wanted a solution that did not risk galactic safety. Here it is. We go to Outer Reach 7 with the dragons. Human presence reduces viral transmission. We live there together as a clan. You get your quarantine. They get their family. Everyone wins. Except you lose everything. Your careers, your homes, your futures." David stepped forward. "We are doctors. We can practice medicine anywhere, even an empty planet." Catherine smiled. "And I'm a nurse. These kids need a nurse. Where they go, I go." Jevik looked at them like they were insane. "You would throw away your lives for creatures you have known for mere months? They're not creatures. They are children." James's voice was steel. "And yes, we would. Without hesitation. Because that is what family does." Elder Sereth moved forward, his ancient voice filling the chamber. "The humans offer you a perfect solution, and you hesitate because it shames you. It shows what you lack. Courage, compassion, the willingness to sacrifice for others. They're more dragon than most dragons I have known." Another dragon spoke up, a younger female with purple scales. "If the humans go to Outer Reach 7, I go too. My daughter is one of those 12 orphans. I survived the plague. I want my child back." "And I," another dragon said. "And I. And I." Within minutes, 20 adult dragons had volunteered to join the exile. James watched in amazement as more voices joined. Dragons who had lost everything were willing to lose even more for a chance at family. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives shouted, argued, gestured wildly. This was not the outcome anyone had expected. Finally, Ambassador Jevic called for order. His voice was tight with frustration. This council will recess for 24 hours. We will reconvene tomorrow with a revised proposal. This session is adjourned. As the representatives filed out, Commander Toril approached James. That was the craziest thing I have ever witnessed, and possibly the bravest. Will it work? I do not know, but you forced them to see something they wanted to ignore. You are not just helping dragons. You're showing the galaxy what it means to choose love over fear. That is dangerous and powerful and exactly what we need. Timothy tugged James's hand. Does this mean we stay together? He squeezed his small claw gently. One way or another, yes. We stay together. I promise. 5 years later, James walked through the gardens of Sanctuary Station and smiled at the controlled chaos around him. A group of young dragons were playing chase through the flowering trees, their laughter mixing with the shouts of human children joining the game. In the distance, he could see the medical facility where David was teaching a class on interspecies pediatric care to a mixed group of human and alien students. The council had not agreed to their original plan. Instead, they had created something better. Sanctuary Station orbited Draenus 4, the dragon homeworld that had been devastated by the plague. It was not isolation. It was integration. Dragons and humans living together, building together, healing together. Other species could visit with proper medical clearance and human liaison supervision. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Dr. Hayes, a young dragon, maybe 8 years old, ran up to him. His scales were healthy green with gold flecks. My mom said you knew the founders. Is that true? Did you really meet Timothy when he was just a hatchling? James grinned. I did more than meet him. I gave him his name. Wow. My teacher says Timothy is a legend. He changed everything. He did. Where is your mom? In the nursery. She's helping with the new arrivals. The young dragon bounded away, already distracted by his friends. James continued walking until he reached the central plaza. A massive statue stood there, carved from stone brought from Earth. It showed a human kneeling, arms wrapped around a small dragon. The plaque beneath read, "When fear would have let them die, compassion chose to live together." Still staring at your own statue. Timothy's voice came from behind him. That is very vain of you. He turned, and his breath caught like it always did. Timothy was massive now, a fully grown dragon with golden scales that shimmered in the artificial sunlight. His wings could span the width of a transport ship. He was beautiful and powerful and absolutely terrifying to anyone who did not know him. But James knew him. He walked up and bopped him on the snout. That statue is not of me specifically. It represents all humans who chose compassion. Sure, it is not. Timothy lowered his great head, and James scratched behind his eye ridge the way he still loved. The new transport just arrived. 15 more orphans from the outer colonies. They are scared. I thought you might want to greet them. Always. How bad is it? Timothy's expression darkened. Bad. Plague tore through their station 6 months ago. These kids have been in automated quarantine since then. No contact. No comfort. Same as I was. James felt the familiar anger rise. 5 years of progress, and some stations still treated plague orphans like contaminated waste instead of traumatized children. They walked together to the landing bay. Catherine was already there, her hair more gray than dark now, but her hands as steady as ever. David stood beside her, organizing the medical team. 20 humans, all trained in dragon care, all willing carriers of the Crimson Scale Plague. The transport doors opened, and 15 small shapes emerged. Dragons between 3 and 7 years old, all of them bearing the telltale red sores of the plague. All of them terrified. The smallest, a female with silver scales, took one look at the crowd and bolted. She ran directly into a corner and pressed herself against the wall, wings spread defensively, making distressed sounds that broke James's heart. Everyone stepped back, James said quietly. Give her space. He approached slowly, just like he had 5 years ago with Timothy. Knelt down, waited, let the hatchling see that he was not a threat. Hello, sweetheart. My name is James. I know you are scared. I know you have been alone for a long time. But you're safe now. I promise you are safe. The hatchling watched him with wide violet eyes. Confused, suspicious, desperate, James extended his hand, palm up. Would you like a hug? I give very good hugs. At least, Timothy thinks so, and he is something of an expert on hugs. Timothy moved closer, careful to keep his distance, but wanting the hatchling to see him. He is telling the truth. James's hugs are the best. They make everything better. The small dragon looked between them. Then, slowly, she crept forward, sniffed James's hand, trembled. I'm going to call you Grace, James whispered, because you are graceful and beautiful, even when you are scared. Is that okay? Grace made a small sound. Then she collapsed into James's arms, all her fear and pain pouring out in crystalline tears. James held her, rocking gently, while the other 14 orphans watched in amazement. It is okay, James murmured. You are not alone anymore. You have family now. You have us. One by one, the other orphans approached. Catherine and David moved forward to help, each taking a dragon into their arms. The medical team spread out, offering comfort and care. Within an hour, 15 traumatized children were beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be safe again. That evening, James sat in his quarters with Grace curled in his lap. The little dragon had not let go of him since landing. Timothy was sprawled across the floor, too big for furniture, watching them with amused affection. Do you remember your first night here? Grace asked Timothy. Were you as scared as me? More scared, Timothy admitted. I did not believe safety was possible. I thought I would die in that quarantine station. Then this stubborn human decided I was worth saving. Why? Grace looked up at James. Why did you do it? Everyone says you could have died. James stroked Grace's head gently. Because you were worth the risk. All of you. Every single orphan we have saved over these 5 years. You are children. You deserve love. It is that simple. What you do is not simple. It changed the whole galaxy. No, honey. What I did was simple. I gave one scared baby a kiss and told him he mattered. Everything else just followed from that. Grace was quiet for a moment. Then she pressed closer. Will you give me a kiss too? James smiled and pressed a gentle kiss to the top of Grace's head, right between her eye ridges where her horns would someday grow. Welcome home, Grace. Welcome to your family. Through the window, he could see Sanctuary Station spreading out in all directions. Lights from thousands of homes where dragons and humans live together. Children of both species playing in parks. Families forming across species lines. It was not perfect. There were still stations that refused to allow dragons. Still colonies that feared the plague. But it was progress. Real, tangible progress. And it had started with one kiss, given in defiance of fear, offered with nothing but love. Timothy caught his eye and smiled, his golden eyes warm. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being worth it, James replied, holding Grace closer. All of you. Thank you for teaching us that love is stronger than fear. Every single time.